Alright, hey guys, it's Kevin here, and in this tutorial I'll be showing you how to unlock special foregrounds and backgrounds for your custom levels. This is going to pretty much be a part 2 to this mini-series, I don't know what to call it, but pretty much the first episode was using Cheat Engine to unlock pretty much every block and some custom backgrounds and whatnot, but there are certain things you can't do in Cheat Engine that we need to do in a hex editor, and it's quite a bit more confusing. But for the most part, I would suggest just using Cheat Engine, except for unlocking special backgrounds and foregrounds, which you can see here, the rain in the foreground and the, I guess, shipwreck background. This is something you can only do in the hex editor, from what I know. I haven't figured out a way to do it in Cheat Engine, and yeah, it's just the only way I've seen able to do it. But for custom blocks, like you can see these invisible blocks and around and whatnot, those you can all do in Cheat Engine. Unlocking like the special boss and different colors and whatnot, that all can be done in Cheat Engine, and it's way easier in Cheat Engine. So I highly suggest you go watch the first video if you want to do any of that. If you're just here for the custom foregrounds and backgrounds, then well, this is where you can learn. So pretty much what we're going to be using is a hex editor. The one I'm going to be using is HXD, and it comes in a bunch of different language. I'm going to be obviously using English, and you can just download it here. I'll have a link to this in the description if you want to go there and download that. Or if you have a different hex editor, it should pretty much all work similar. So starting off, what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new playlist. I am using a controller to do this. I've tested it with with the keyboard, and it works exactly the same, so don't worry about that. So what we're going to do is create a new level, and we're going to go to the max stats. This will help out later. Like, you can use any value here, but just for the tutorial's sake, I'm going to show you a couple things, and having 40 width and 30, or sorry, yeah, 40 width, 30 height will just help out later. So I highly suggest you follow along in that sense. So now we have our default map here. I'm going to go through and once again set up a few things, just so it'll help us out later. So now we are going to leave it as an adventure map, so we will need an entrance and exit just to be able to save it. So I'll just put an entrance wherever, and an exit wherever, and then just a couple blocks, and some strawberries. Alright, now another thing that'll help us out, take the boulder, and then place it at the very top, and then very bottom. And this will help us distinguish where the beginning and end of our level is in the hex editor later, when we actually open it in the hex editor. Okay, so now we can save this. So I'm just going to go to it, save, we're going to create a new playlist. Let's just call it test, I guess. That's fine. And then we'll just do, I'll do like level 1. Alright, so now we saved it. I'm just going to double check that everything's saved properly. We can see there's our test, and there's a level 1. So now we can go back to the main menu. So now we're going to open up our hex editor. You should have already installed it. If you haven't, take this chance now. Download, install it, and then once you have it installed, open it up, and you should get something that looks like this. Obviously, it's going to be blank for now. We're going to actually find where we saved that playlist to, that test playlist to, in our computer, which will be your Steam install directory. I'm going to show you where the default is. If you know where your Steam install directory is, go to there first, and then once we get to the Steam folder, you can follow along from there. So first things first, let's actually minus that, just get it out of the way. We're going to go into local disk. We're going to go into programs x86. If you don't have an x86, then you'll just go into programs, but if you do have an x86, make sure you go into that. And then we're going to go down to Steam, so I'm just going to hit S to skip down there. We're going to go to Steam, and then we're going to scroll down to user data and go in there. And now here's where this is going to be your Steam profile number, or Steam 3 ID. If you only have one number here, then just go in there. If you don't have one number, That's probably because you've logged into a few different accounts. Like maybe your friend came over and logged into his account on your PC, so it saves his data here. I'm just going to be using another site here to find my Steam 3 ID. I already know what it is, but maybe if you have a multiple file folders here and you don't know what your Steam ID is, then what you're going to do is you're going to open up Steam and go to your Steam profile, and right here, the URL, we're going to copy that, and then we're going to paste it into here, and then click this little search icon. And I'll have this link in the description as well. Every link I use here I'll have in the description. So now we get a bunch of information about our profile. We're looking for the Steam 3 ID, so you can see it here, 516474465. So now we can see it over here, 516474465. So now we know that's ours. So now you can go in there. Now we are looking for the BattleBlock Theater. These are all the games you have installed on your PC. We're looking for the BattleBlock Theater ID, which is 238460. And then in here we'll have remote, go in remote. And now you can see here, here's your config file, like your, I think it's like your resolution and maybe your key bindings, your BattleBlock Theater save, so that's like your campaign progress and whatnot. Then any other playlists that you have, you can see that tutorial one I showed off and the test one that we just created. I'm just going to close some of this stuff. So now that we have this test playlist and we have HXD opened, we can actually just click and drag this over. Otherwise you can click open and like go to this directory to find it, but it's way easier just to click and drag it. Alright, so now you can actually see here the name of the playlist should be there, test, and the name of the first level. Plus, if you have more levels, there'll be like level 2 down here, and level 3 down here, and so on and so forth. So if you actually want to change the name of your level, like if I type in, what do I want to type in here? Let's say Java. Alright, so if you want to type in Java, that will actually change the name of the playlist. I'm going to hit Control S, or you can click this little button up here to save. And if we actually go into the level editor and load, you can already see it's changed the name of the level. The only thing I want to say about this is sometimes if you change the name to something longer or shorter, like I changed test to Java, they are both 4 letters in length, so I had no problem with that. Sometimes if you change it to longer or shorter, you can kind of mess things up, and it pretty much just adds like question marks and whatnot to your level. So I highly suggest don't really use that. Like just make your name what you want your name before you do anything. Before you actually create the playlist, know what you want your name to be. You can do the same with the level 1 if I want to change that. I could do that, but once again, I wouldn't really suggest it unless you're changing it to something the exact same characters as the first one. Alright, so now this hex values, all these zeros and whatnot, are all part of your playlist. If you have more than one map, it will go on further. I'm sure these will, yeah, you can see all these are zeros because they only have one level, which is right, I'll start from the top. Alright, so first, like I said, you have your names of all the maps, and then we're going to scroll down until we start seeing a bunch of 7s. What these 7s signify, if I open up the map, Java level 1. Okay, so this 7 right here signifies this top left block. And then the next 7 would be this block. And then the next 7 would be this block, and so on and so on and so on. And you can see this 8E is this boulder. The hex value for the boulder is 8E. So if we actually hit Control F, and you can do this actually from the top. So say we're up here. If you place that boulder there, you can hit Control F, or I think you can go up to, is it File? Okay, no, sorry, it's actually Search. If you go up to Search and go to Find, or you can hit Control F, we're going to go to Hex Value, and we're going to go 8E, which is the boulder, and then you want to make sure it's forward, and then click OK. So that is our start of our level. If you want to change any of these zeros in here, that will change all the blocks in here. And now if we go move forward one and search for the next 8E, that is the end of our level down here. So this 8E and this 8E, we know everything from here up to here. That's all the blocks in our map. You can see most of them are zeros. You can see that 0, 1 right there is the start point. that 06 is the endpoint. We can see the gems up here are 83. These are all in hex values, so you can't type in decimal values, and that's actually, I'll put a link to this in the description, which is basically a hex to decimal value converter. And actually you can see right here, so here is the start of our map, right? There's the boulder, and then we're going to follow this all the way up. These are all those just blank red blocks, like I said at the top. And then we got a 0. So if you made your map size 30 width by 40, or sorry, 40 width by 30 height, we're going to be looking for these numbers, 28 and 1E. The reason why is 28, if we type in 30 into decimal value and convert it into hex value, I did that backwards. So if we do 40, sorry, that is 28. So that's why when we type in 28 here, it actually means 40 in decimal. And then if we do 30, we can see it's 1E. So that 30 is the width, 28 is the height. I keep doing that backwards. 28 is the width, 1E is the height. And then all these following ones, you can see a bunch of these ones are different numbers. Like these are the 7s, which are the top of the level up here, where the level starts, but there's a bunch of extra ones here. So I'm going to go through these and label each one what it is, and then you can go and mess around with it, and I'll show you some of the values that you can change that do some cool things. So starting off here, like I said, this 28 is the width, and this 1E is the height. This is the game type. So 00 is like adventure mode, and I think like it goes all the way up to 08, I believe, which is like ball game. And then there's a 09, which is like a picture of a Hattie, and a 0A, a 0B, and a 0C, which are all like weird game modes. You can unlock those same with in Cheat Engine, and it's much easier. But you can do it in here too, and they don't really do anything different. Like they just count as adventure mode game types. So I haven't found a reason why you'd ever change these. After that one, we have block type. Then we have sky color. This is the background style, but this is just the background style you can change in the game. So far, I would say leave all of these ones alone. They're not really useful. Anything that you can change in here, you can do in Cheat Engine, and it's much easier. So these are the ones we want right here. This is foreground, and then this is the special background. So these are the ones we actually might want to change. So if I change this to 0101, so that is the special foreground, special background, and I hit save or Control S. If we load up that map now, you can actually see now we have the gift shop as our background and foreground. It's still the same map, like all these blocks are passable. The only blocks that count are the ones that we place, like these blocks, the start, the end. The very bottom is still there, but you can see the foreground down here, like the stairs and the cat and all that stuff. You can see the background. Once again, it's only a background. If you want to make these blocks actually work as they did, you can use the invisible blocks that we used Cheat Engine to unlock. But for the most part, it's just a background. And we can actually go through this, like if we want to change it to, what was another good one? I think it was 0F. 0F was the one I used as the tutorial one I showed at the start. Yeah, okay, so here we go. Same thing. It's the ship. Once again, it's all passable. Nothing actually is interactable. Like you can't interact with anything. This black space down here, you just cover up with grass blocks. And the rest you would do with invisible blocks. But that is how you do the foregrounds and backgrounds. Really, that is the only thing you can change with the hex editor that you can't change with Cheat Engine. I'll go through the rest of these. So that we know is the foreground, background. This is the block 1 color. This is the block 2 color. This is the water color. This is the plant color. This one, I don't know what it is. I've changed it. I've messed around with it. I think it's just like a placeholder, something maybe that they were going to use at some point, but I couldn't figure out what it did. It seems just emptiness. This one is the time limit of the map. Not really anything you can do with this. It just goes from 0 to 255, which is the lowest amount of time you can use in the level editor, to the max level time in the level editor. So really you can't do anything with it that I found. And then once again, here's another 0, 0 that I think is just another placeholder. You can try and mess around with these two. I've messed around with them a bit, but haven't really bothered too much because I didn't feel like wasting my time. And then you can see this 07 and all these 07s go into the map. And if you want to change any of these, like say we wanted to place what's a value of something? I know 83. Alright, so we know 83 is strawberries. So if we go through and place a bunch of strawberries, I'm just going to type in 83 like a bunch of times. Oops, 83. And then I'm going to save it again, Control S. And now if we load up our map, we can actually see all these strawberries up here. Now there is a, you're only allowed 7 strawberries on the map. So that's why when I placed a bunch down here, and all these ones, way more than 7, it kind of copied over them. But if we go through and replace those with let's say boulders, where there is no value to how many you can have, not that I know of at least. And now if we load it, now you can see they're all boulders. So they're all just hex values, and you can pretty much place any block you want to, but like I said, you can do that in Cheat Engine, it's way easier. So now all these backgrounds, I will have at the end of the video for all these values. I'll have kind of a bunch of values that I found. I think I found them all, but there's a big gap where there's just a bunch of nothing, so I didn't bother searching through that whole gap. But yeah, I think I found them all, and at the end of the video I'll give you all the values for all the backgrounds. So now we are pretty much done. I pretty much showed you everything. What I will do, though, is I'll show you what happens if you have a playlist with multiple levels in it. Like I'll just call this like ABC, and then I'll save another one as DEF, and I'll do one more as Buffalo. Why not? Alright, so now if we exit out of this, we can see our playlist now has 4 levels. If we go back to the hex editor, it doesn't update automatically, so we're gonna have to go to close that, and then we're gonna have to go back into here. Whenever you edit it, it creates this backup. I've never seen any use for it. You could possibly corrupt your playlist by doing this, and that's why it creates this backup. So I'm just gonna leave that where it is. You can actually delete it later, like if you found out you haven't corrupted your playlist, then you can just delete it, and that's usually what I do. But yeah, there's a way you could corrupt your playlist. So now we can see here, there's the name of the playlist, and I'll actually open it back here so we can see it. There's the name of the playlist, there's the first level right there. There's ABC right here, there's DEF over here, and then there's Buffalo down here. Now, if you want to find each of these maps in here, like say you want to change the game type to DEF, if I want to change the game type to that, I'm going to have to find where that map starts. If you used that boulder, if you placed a boulder at the beginning and the end, then you could just use this AE, search forward. So that is the beginning of our first map. But then see, now we used boulders in here, right? So now we would have to skip over those to go to the end of that map, and then we'd have to skip over those to go to the start of the next map. So that can be a bit confusing. The best way I found is if you used the max value, 28 by 1E, every time you use a 28, a bracket shows up. So you can actually go over here, you can switch it to text string, and then we can use the opening bracket, and then we're going to go forward. So there's the start of our first map, and we can make sure it's the start of our first map by all those 7s. Sometimes there'll be 7s and 8s in here if you don't have all the same colors at the top. But if you have all the same colors, then it will be all one number, 7 or 8. or whatever if you have like all the same block along the top. So now that we know that's the start of our first map, we're just going to click down one line just to get past it, and then go the same thing, the open bracket forward. So now here's the start of our second map. If we hit Control F again and go down, here's the third map. So this would be DEF. If I actually go in here and change, we'll change the foreground and background to 1A, 1A, and then save it. So now, if we load up this map, it's still the regular, the rain one. But if we load up DEF, which we just edited, now it's different. So that's how you find each map. You pretty much hit Control F, find the bracket, and that will only work if you have it to 40 width. If you have any different width of your level, you will not have the bracket over here. And then yeah, we can search forward again, and then this is our last map. What was it, like Buffalo? Yeah, Buffalo. And once again, we can change these to F, sure. Actually, that's like the last value, so it's probably not going to be anything too special. But now if we load up Buffalo, yeah, now you can just see it's black. Instead of having like the audience, we have just black. Alright, so that is pretty much everything. Like I said, everything in the cheat engine version you can do in... Or sorry, everything in this version you can do in the cheat engine version. So that's a lot easier, unless you are changing the foregrounds and backgrounds, which are these two values right here. If you want to change those, I suggest just changing those to start off with, and then doing everything else in your with cheat engine, because you can do that all in game. You don't have to reload the map. You don't have to go into like your remote folder every time you want to make a change. It's way easier to do it with cheat engine, and you can do every single thing in here with cheat engine except for the foregrounds and backgrounds, which like I said, I haven't figured out a way. If somebody does figure out a way, that'll make life a lot easier. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.